All right, so today what we're going to do is we're going to add and subtract integers on a number line, and then we're going to just go into some basic rules. I'm going to try to keep this short and concise. Usually this takes me at least, a little over a week to teach, but I'm trying to compact this into one day. So let's just go ahead and look at adding and subtracting integers on a number line first to make sure it makes sense to you, okay? So if you want to add 4 to -9, you would go start at 0. This is always going to be your start point. And we'll go to -9. Okay? So we're at -9, but then we want to add 4. So to add 4, you simply move to the right. Because when we add a positive number, just like if you had 3 plus 1, here's your 0, your 1, your 2, your 3, 4, 5, and so forth. So if you wanted to go to 3, you would go here. But if you wanted to add 1, you would move to the right. You would go right 1. So to add 4, we're going to go right 4 from -9. Right 1, 2, 3, 4. So we see that we end right here. -9 plus 4 is -5. All right. Normally, before I do number 2, let's just go over what we do if we had to subtract. Suppose instead of 3 plus 1, you had 3 minus 1. That's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so forth. So if I started at 3, I'm at 0, and I moved to 3, I would be here. But to subtract 1, you don't want to go to the right 1. To subtract 1 from 3, you move back to the left 1. That's how you subtract a positive number. And that puts us at 3. I'm at 2. Everybody knows that 3 minus 1 is 2. Okay? So to subtract a positive, we go left. Okay? So let's keep that in mind when we do number 2. I'm going to start here at 0, and I'm going to go to -3. Now, this thing says subtract 5. So here when we subtracted 1, we went to the left 1. So when I subtract 5, I'm going to go to the left 5. So starting back at -3, go left 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It puts us at -8. That's where we end. So I see that -3 minus 5 is -8. Okay. Now there are some things that I need to go over, guys. So we had 3 plus 1 and 3 minus 1, right? Okay. This was right 1. And this was moved to the left 1 from 3. All right, so I'm going to show you something. If you see something that looks like this, where you have, and I'm going to highlight this part. If I can get it up. Okay. Where you have minus or negative. Minus or negative is the same as plus. So these two make a plus. So they're the same as this. So instead of keeping minus or negative, go ahead and write plus 1. So if you see minus or negative, that's also right. Now, if you see something that looks like this, plus or negative is the same as minus 1. Okay, plus and negative is the same as minus. But minus and negative is the same as plus. So I want you to keep that in mind. Plus some negative. Now I don't necessarily have to have a 1. But plus some negative is the same as just minus. And minus a negative is the same as just plus. I call this a double negative. So anytime you see them a double negative or minus some negative, it's the same as plus, okay? This one is the same as minus. So here it says start at 0 and go to -2. So go to -2. But plus, I have plus a negative. Well, plus a negative is the same as just -5. So to subtract 5, I would go left 5. So just go left 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I end at -7. All right, here it says start at 0 and go to -8. But now I also see that I have minus a negative. Well, minus a negative is this double negative, which is the same as plus. So this is basically the same as plus 12. Well, to add a positive or a regular number, we will move to the right 12, okay? So again, minus a negative is the same as plus, guys. All right, so what I want to do is go to the right 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I end at 4. And that's how you use a number line. But again, you have to make sure that you know that plus some number, if you start wherever, and you add some number like 5, that will be right 5. Or if you start at some number and you subtract some negative number, that's the same. This is the same as plus. So it also goes right 5. Okay? Basically, I remember that these two are the same. And you also have to remember that minus some number will have us going left. Like this would go left 5. Or if you start at some number and you add a negative. Okay, adding a negative is the same as subtracting. So it would also go left. Okay? Just keep that in mind. All right, so you have certain rules. We're going to look at some rules. Without using a number line, we're going to add and subtract integers. It says use the following rules to add or subtract rational numbers. You will see a plus or minus sign in the middle of the two numbers if it's adding or subtracting. Some of my students get mixed up on whether it's add, subtract, or multiplication, division. It's only addition and subtraction if you see a plus or a minus sign in the middle, okay? Then it's addition and subtraction. So you can use these rules I'm about to give you, or you can draw your own number line and use it. So here are the rules. Simple rules to apply. It'll help you with adding and subtracting. If the signs are the same, you're going to add and keep the sign. So same signs, I need you to add. That little plus stands for add and keep the sign. Different signs, I'm going to need you to subtract and then take the sign of the larger number. So different, D stands for different, subtract, and keep the sign of the larger number. So you need to try to remember this, okay? Same signs, add. That plus stands for add, or you plus them and keep the sign. Okay? This D stands for different. So if they're different, you're going to subtract and keep the sign of the larger number. Okay? When I say larger, I mean don't ignore the signs. So suppose you had -5 plus 8. Just look at this as 5 and look at this as 8. 8's bigger and the sign in front of it is a plus, so your answer will be a positive. But those signs are different. See, that's a -5 and that's a positive 8. So you would subtract. You're going to end up with a positive 3. Make sure I subtracted. I got the 3, but I take the sign of the larger number. Between 5 and 8, 8's bigger, and the sign in front of it is positive, so you make a positive 3. Now, if you had something that looked like this, excuse me, you're going to look at this as a positive 7, and you're going to look at this as a negative 12, okay? Although it's minus 12, you can look at it as negative 12. So if you ever get confused on how to look at it, you can just draw a line after each number. So that looks like positive 7, and this looks like negative 12. They're different. I'm going to subtract. When I subtract 12 minus 7 is 5. But if you look at this as 7 and 12, which one of those is bigger? 12 is bigger. What's the sign in front? A negative. So make sure your answer is negative. Okay, let me give you some where the signs are the same. All right, if you have something like negative 3 minus 2, if you get confused on how to look at it, just draw a line after the number. So you can look at this as negative 3 and look at that as negative 2. Well, these signs are the same. So if they're the same, I would just add the numbers, okay? Add them, plus them. So if you add 3 and 2, you get 5. And you keep the sign. Well, what's this sign? This sign is negative. Excuse me. What's this sign? This sign is negative. So you just keep it. So negative 3 minus 2 is negative 5. 4 plus 10. Just draw a line after the number. This is positive 4, and this is positive 10. They're both the same sign, so you're going to plus them or add them. You get 14, and keep the sign. But this sign is positive, that sign is positive. Your sign is positive 14. You don't have to write that little positive there. If there's no number, no sign in front of a number, just automatically assume it's positive, okay? All right, so what I'm going to want you to do now is I want you to pause this video, and I want you to type in this URL, and I'm going to have this in the instructions part where this video is located on Google Classroom. So you'll copy and paste this into the web where you put the web address, and then watch this song. It's only 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So it just reiterates these rules right here, okay? But watch the song first. Okay. I'm not going to do that with you. You'll pause the video. You'll go to Google Classroom. You'll look where this video is posted. Look under your directions, and there's a link there. You copy and post that link into where you put your web address, okay? And watch this song. And then you'll come back to this video, and you're going to try these. All right. So the video again just reiterated what I had said as far as these rules were concerned again. So I'm going to draw a line here so I can get my signs. This is negative. I want to look at this as negative 5, and look at this as negative 9. These are the same. So I'm going to add them and keep the sign. So add them or plus them, I get 14. And if I keep them, they're both negative, so make it negative. Here, draw a line after the number. This is negative 5. And plus negative is the same as negative 9. Okay? So they're both the same. So when I plus them, I get 14, and they both are negative, so keep it. And I'm not going to do all of these. I'm just going to skip around. Here, this is negative 3, and this is positive 10. The signs are different. So different, I'm going to subtract and keep the sign of the larger number. So if I subtract 10 minus 3 is 7. And I have, look at these without the sign. So here I'm going to look at this as 3 and 10. Between 3 and 10, 10 is bigger, and the sign in front of it is positive. So this is just positive 7. Here I'm going to draw a line after the number. This is negative 3. And minus a negative or double negative is the same as plus. So that's also a positive. So that's negative and positive, though different. So again, if they're different, I'm going to subtract and keep the sign of the larger number. 10 minus 3 is 7. You have a 3 and a 10. 10 is larger, and the sign of it is positive. All right, let's take a look at number 6. This is positive 4. Remember, if you don't see a sign sitting in front of it, we assume that it's positive. I'm going to look at this as negative 9. Those signs are different, so I'm going to subtract and keep the sign of the larger number. Okay, so subtract 9 minus 4 is 5. So I have 4 and I have 9. 9 is larger than 4, but the sign of it is negative, so I keep the negative. All right, let's take a look at some more. All right, suppose I gave you these two. So after negative 125, draw a line. This is negative, and remember that a double negative is the same as a positive. Okay, these signs are different. I'm not going to write the different all the way. I'm just going to use D for different. So I'm going to subtract and keep the sign of the larger number. So when you subtract, make sure you put your larger number on top. Between 125 and 243, 243 is larger. So put it on top and subtract. 118 and 243 is larger, and its sign is positive. I don't have to put that little plus sign. I can just put 118. I'm going to go back up here. After the negative 32, this is negative. I'll put a little bar. That's negative. I can read this as negative 15. So these signs are the same. So I'm going to plus them and keep the sign. If I plus them, I add them. 32 plus 15 is 47. But if I keep the sign, they're both negative. So I just keep the negative. It's negative 47. All right, now we're going to try some that have multiple numbers in them. Okay, very simple, guys. You just kind of draw your little bar after each number. So negative. Look at this as negative 9 plus negative, same as negative. You can look at that as negative. Minus a negative is the same as positive. And then you look at this as negative 8, okay? So what I am going to do is take all of my signs that are the same. So I got, let's see. I'm going to have to circle. Negative, 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 negative. All those negatives are the same sign. So I'm going to plus all of those and keep the sign. So I'm going to take negative 2, add to it negative 9, add to it negative 3, and add to that negative 8. Let's add all those up because I plus them if they're the same signs. 2 plus 9 is 11. 11 plus 3 is 14. And 14 plus 8 is 22. But I have to keep the sign. All these signs are negative, so I keep it as negative. Okay, so I know all of these negatives put together make negative 22. But I still have this positive or minus this negative. I didn't want to do all that. Let me just do it this way. So I still have this part right here. Minus negative 7. Still have that. Okay? So we know this is negative 22, and minus a negative is the same as plus 7. So that's positive. Well, looking at the numbers that are remaining, these signs are not the same. They are different. So I'm going to subtract and take the sign of the larger number. Well, 22 minus 7 is 15. But here I have a 22. Here I have a 7. 22 is larger, and the sign in front of it is negative. So this would be negative 15. You just look at which number is larger and keep that sign, the sign that sits in front of it, okay? Let's take a look at number 2. Let me draw a little bar to split this up to kind of chunk it. After each number, draw a little bar. Gonna look at this as positive. Minus negative is the same as positive 97, so that's positive. That's positive. Plus negative is the same as negative, so that's negative. And that's a negative 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all these that are positive because they have the same sign. I'm going to plus them and keep the sign. So I got 128, I got a 97, and I got a 14. 8 plus 7 is 15. 15 plus 4 is 19. Carry the 1. 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 9 is 12. 12 plus 1 is 13. Carry the 1. So I got 239 positives. Okay? But I also need to look at this part. These two are negative. Okay, but they're the same. So I'm going to plus them and keep the sign there. So I'm going to take the negative 62 and add to it negative 52. That's 67. But you're going to keep the signs. Okay? So now I got 239 positives and 67 negatives. Those are my remaining numbers. Well, what do I do with those two? Well, those two signs are different. So I'm going to subtract and take the sign of the larger number. So to subtract, put the larger number on top. 239 minus 67. It's 172. Now, is 172 going to be positive or negative? Well, it says keep the sign of the larger number. Well, the larger number is 239 and it's positive. So my answer is positive 172. All right, and that's all I'm going to have you do. Now you're going to practice this skill, okay? All right, thank you.